With the dominance of the Adidas EVO SL in my lineup this year, did the New Balance Rebel version 5 stand a chance at becoming my favourite daily trainer? And how does it stack up against its competition? Today this shoe will be going head to head with some of the other great daily trainers, and I'll be giving you my verdict on its versatility, comfort and responsiveness. So I delivered my first run video on this shoe not too long ago. The mileage is already starting to rocket, well over 50 miles now and a fair few runs in this shoe. How does it stack up against the EVO SL and of course all the others? We'll be going through all of that shortly. So the best way to kickstart this is just to remind ourselves of some quick stats of these shoes and then get straight into the comparison. The New Balance Rebel version 5 has a 6mm drop from 35mm in the heel down to 29 in the forefoot. It comes in my UK size 13, the lightest of all these shoes, 280 grams or 9.8 ounces, containing no plates in the midsole or rods, just one thick slab of fuel cell with an engineered mesh upper and some decent rubber traction. This shoe is quite built up, so it's surprising that the weight is as light as it is. The Adidas EVO SL also has a 6mm drop. This time though it adds 4mm on from the Rebel, so 39 in the heel down to 33 in the forefoot. This one comes in 12 grams heavier, so 292 grams or 10.3 ounces. Once again, no rods or plates in the midsole, we just have a thick slab of Light Strike Pro foam, engineered mesh upper again, and some rubber on the outsole in the high wearing areas, but of course that exposed midsole just as we've seen in the Rebel in the midfoot section. Another one we could throw into the mix is the asics novablast 5. Started off as one of my favourite shoes, but after in and around 150 to 200 miles, the midsole foam in this thing really did start to flatten out, pushed on to 300 miles. So really quite sad that it didn't last too long. This one's an 8mm drop, 41.5mm of stack in the heel, 33.5 in the forefoot. This one is the heaviest of them all, 325 grams or 11.5 ounces. Hoka Mach 6, which I think is probably the closest matchup to the Rebel, is a 5mm drop, so 1mm less than the Rebel and the EVO SL, 37 in the heel, 32 in the forefoot. This one's the third heaviest in the list, so 297 grams, it's 17 grams heavier than the Rebel and 10.4 ounces. One of my favourite shoes last year, got it to 400 miles, completely blew the older Hoka durability issue out the window. Really impressed with that shoe. They went to a new supercritical EVA for that version 6 and it was well worth the update. And finally I'll throw in the Adidas SL2 because I know this one's quite a fan favourite. For me, great shoe, just a little bit too narrow in the end, toe box was a little bit squished. I did have some grip issues in the wetter conditions in that rubber. However, just as I have with other Adidas shoes, really enjoyed the responsive ride that it gave me. 9mm drop in that shoe, 36 in the heel, 27 in the forefoot. 308 grams or 10.8 ounces. Light Strike Pro on the inside, encased within the basic Light Strike midsole there. We've got an engineered mesh upper as we've seen in a lot of them, and of course as I mentioned with that grip on the majority of the shoe this time, I did find this stuff to be a little bit slick. Some of you also agreed, some of you didn't have that issue, so maybe it was just me. As I said, toe box just slightly narrower in this shoe, however still really enjoyed this one. So just before we get into the versatility, comfort and responsiveness of the Rebel, let's just quickly go head to head with these two shoes. So obviously the EVO SL has been my favourite, got two pairs of this now, this is my last pair. Nothing's going to change there, spoiler alert, it's just not. This is still the best daily trainer of the year. This one's fantastic, delighted to get my feet back into a Rebel version. Haven't tested a Rebel since version 2, so this is a nice change. I think though there's a couple of drawbacks with this shoe which I've found since running in it a little bit more. First run in this shoe was a workout 5x2K and I was doing that in and around just shy of marathon effort, so pretty close to it, and this thing's a bread and butter. I didn't find this thing to be the most exciting in that workout, and I'll go into more detail of that shortly. We've got a wider platform in this one, but oddly I find this a little bit more stable than this, and I think that's mainly just because of how soft this shoe is. The midsole in this is one of the softest I've tried in a very long time, and I'm finding it to get softer the more I'm running in it, so it's obviously starting to break in. Comparable potentially with the novablast, but it lacks the bounce back that the novablast had, and again we'll come to that very shortly. I don't have it with me, but if this was the Mach 6 and I was pitting these two against each other, I would say that they are the closest comparison in terms of shoes. Now last year when the Rebel version 4 was out and I had the Mach 6, I had a lot of comments on the videos of the Mach 6 basically saying you don't need to get the Rebel because these two shoes are very similar, and I'd agree. I think the one main difference is the width of this shoe. The platform is a lot wider, but I think the ride and the feel of the two shoes are very similar. I would, however, still pick the Mach 6, being completely honest with you, and again, we'll come to that shortly in the versatility section. I found the Mach 6 to be absolutely brilliant over those easy and moderate days, which I do with this thing as well, but I could pick up the pace quite comfortably in the Mach 6. I did some whopping long runs in it and got down to much quicker than marathon effort. In fact, in some of the reps, I was getting down to 10k pace, and it just handled it really well. I found the Mach 6 versatility to actually be through the roof. It was a really, really good shoe. So let's get into the versatility of this shoe, and I'll draw comparisons to the other ones that we talked about in the intro as we go through. I'll also put a little chart on the screen as to where I think this fits in terms of versatility in amongst the shoes that we've also mentioned. I don't think versatility is this shoe's gig, to be honest with you. Easy and steady miles is pretty much where I would take it. So what I found when I was doing the workout, and again, we'll come to it in the section coming up, is that the comfort in this shoe is fantastic and the softness of the midsole is brilliant, but you just don't get much responsiveness back from it. You don't get much bounce back. You get that lovely soft cushioning feel as you land, but that spring back that you get is pretty much non-existent in this shoe. And that's what I found in the workout. It was a very comfortable shoe to work out in. It was really, really nice. Feet felt nice and looked after, but I just didn't get that pop back. And I did feel like I was working a little bit harder than I would in my other shoes, especially with the EVO SL. I mean, that tops the charts of versatility, as you can probably understand. But from the Rebel's perspective, I don't think that's its gig. Moving on to comfort though, that could be the one where this thing tops the charts, or at least be a top two. I'll be honest with you, I'm really enjoying how comfortable this shoe feels. Not only just to slip on foot, but to run in as well. Really appreciating the Fuel Cell midsole. Haven't used Fuel Cell in a very, very long time. Again, I mentioned Rebel version 2, the Fuel Cell TC. These are two shoes that I've previously tested with this midsole compound in, and I'm sure it's been tinkered with along the way, but I just remember it being lovely and soft and squishy. Now the TC worked really well because it had a carbon plate in it and you really got a good snapback. I felt that shoe was very unstable going slow. As soon as you picked up the pace, you absolutely flew in it. Without some kind of aid in this shoe, it does feel quite mushy. It feels very comfortable. It actually reminds me a little bit of when I tested out the Invincible version 1. I never actually bought that shoe. That one was super, super soft, but it does feel a little bit like that in some respects. Not quite as marshmallowy, but it's probably the closest shoe that I've found to that. You just get such a lovely squish when you land in this shoe. The compression on it is wonderful. It's just a shame there's not a lot of bounce back. And responsiveness, well, as I've just alluded to, this thing will probably come bottom of the charts for that. And that's why I feel its versatility is limited. If it had a bit more responsiveness when you land and then pop off, then it would obviously be right up there and become a lot more usable in a lot more maybe different types of sessions, different types of runs, but it very much has become an easy day shoe. It's not what I found in the Rebel version 2. I appreciate those shoes evolve. Brands bring in other model lineups to make things more exciting and keep things a little bit spicy, and so I think this thing has very much been downgraded to that daily trainer. Now I'm not complaining because I'm enjoying running in it and it is taking up those easy days really nicely. It does kind of, as I said, remind me of the Mach 6, and I'm enjoying using it for those easy and steady days. But as I said, with versatility, responsiveness is not this thing's gig. Now if you are looking for versatility out of these shoes, I would definitely consider the EVO SL or even the SL2. If you've got a narrower foot, this one might work well for you, or the Mach 6. I think those three shoes really do tick that box. I've said enough about this in previous videos, so I won't waste any more of your time. The SL2 is a little bit firmer because it does have that basic light strike in it, as well as the light strike pro within that. You just have to bear in mind that this is slightly firmer than the EVO. However, it is fast. I have done some very, very quick workouts in this shoe, very much down to 5k effort, and it handles it really well. It also handles the easy miles really well. So this one is a really good jack of all trades. And as I said earlier, the Mach 6 is also a really good option. Comfort, I think you're looking at these two shoes. If you want a bit of softness, a bit of squish underfoot, then these two are going to be the ones. Obviously, I would also put the EVO SL in there as well, but I think that's these two speciality more so than anything. It's a shame that the foam really dropped off a cliff on this one between 150 and 200 miles. I was really quite gutted. I heard the durability on the version 4 wasn't that good either. A lot of people said the foam died after 200 miles in this one as well. So I guess we're going to have to see. I'll do my best to get this one up as high as possible. And in terms of responsiveness, don't look past these two either. I think these two will definitely top the charts here. Just that landing and that snapback feeling, that pop-off sensation, whatever you want to call it. You just get that good sense of propulsion as you go through the gait cycle. As I said, slightly firmer, slightly softer, both are great options there. So that's where I think the Rebel version 5 stacks up in amongst some of these great shoes. A lovely, soft and cushioned ride, very comfortable, appreciating the wider platform platform on the shoe, running a number of different conditions. Now we have had some rain, and again, the grip is really good. And overall, I've been really enjoying this for those easy and steady days. As I said, a little bit disappointed the versatility isn't a little bit more. However, I've got the EVO SL for that, and it's definitely not going to nudge that one out of the rotation. So I would still choose the EVO SL over this shoe. I'd choose the Mach 6 over this shoe as well. But that's not to say this is a bad one. I am really enjoying it. And I think if you're looking for something nice and soft and cushioned, and maybe on those recovery and easy days, this is definitely one to consider. And of course, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this as well. Have you managed to pick up version 5 of the Rebel yet? Or did you enjoy version 4? Please do drop a comment and let me know. It'd be great also to hear if you've got both the Rebel and the EVO and what you think. Do you agree or disagree? Let everyone know down in the comments below, and of course, share your thoughts down there. If you missed my first run video on the Rebel and you want to know more about my first thoughts after that workout, do check out this video up here. And I'll leave a link down here to my most used shoes in 2025 so far, and I'll see you guys over on one of those.